Hi Year 9. This evening I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about rocks, because that's what we're going to be studying for the first few weeks of this term. So here is a rock. This is granite. Granite makes up a lot of the Cairngorm mountains that a lot of you have been climbing up, and granite is known as an igneous rock. Igneous rocks are formed by fire and heat deep under the ground at temperatures of about 1200 degrees C. Now if I hold this a little bit closer, you can see that there's crystals in the granite, because granite has cooled very, very slowly, allowing those crystals to grow as it solidifies. Whereas here we have what we call extrusive igneous rocks, whereas granite is an intrusive igneous rock which cools slowly. This is pumice and this is obsidian. Both of these rocks are thrown out of the volcanoes and therefore they're known as extrusive rock. There are no crystals in them. Obsidian here is a little bit like glass, very, very smooth, and you can cut yourself on there. It's fairly sharp. Whereas pumice, as you may well know, is a very, very light rock. It can float on water. It's got lots of little air holes in it, and those air holes were formed when the volcanoes erupted, allowing gases to build up and form a very, very lightweight rock. I've actually got some what we call tephra, which has come from Iceland, and this is actual rock that came out of Eyjafjallajökull volcano, not very easy to pronounce, in 2010. Now I'm going to hand over to Miss Monteith, who's going to tell you a little bit about sedimentary rocks. So I'm going to throw this one over to Miss Monteith. Catch!
Thank you very much, Mr. Cook. Right, in contrast to igneous rocks, sandstone, which is a sedimentary rock we're going to look at now, has a much more benign, quieter formation. Less of an explosive formation of igneous rocks. And it's difficult to think, but if you look out across Moray here from Rosal, it's got this lovely northeast Scotland climate and landscape. But if you went back 200 to 300 million years ago to a period of time called the Permian, this whole area was completely different. And in fact, it would have been far more like the Sahara Desert. You'd have had sand dunes, a hot, arid climate. And it is difficult to think, even though it's been a very dry day and a dry period of 3 weeks, it would be, as I say, far more like the Saharan Desert. And this rock, the sandstone, formed as a sedimentary rock, as I say, if you have a look, it's very homogeneous. It's very similar in terms of the shape of the sand that forms it. It's not got any significant difference in terms of any obvious mineral veins running through it or anything. It's all very similar colour, size of grains. Now, that's because a sedimentary rock is formed through essentially two main processes. That of compaction and one called cementation. And it's not hugely difficult to consider what's happening in each. Compaction, very simply, involves the grains which are being squeezed together, pushed down, compressed together, sandwiched together to make them into a rock. And cementation, think of a word cement, is essentially where the grains are being glued together. Minerals are sort of sticking them together. That process can turn what would be ordinary beach sand over a period of thousands, millions of years into a rock, which is actually relatively hard. But if I do try and crack this, we go over here, this may or may not work. There you go, a little crack there. You can just about see, when a fresh exposed scar, you've still got what appears to be very similar to the sand that it once was. Now, if you, as we will, go down to the coast, only a kilometre away from here, if you go down to Clashat Cove, just east of Hopeman, you can see evidence of dinosaurs there. Their footprints would have been left in the rocks as fossils left in time. And you can also see evidence of sand dunes. You get something called crossbedding, where the dune system, the layers have been pushed up at a slight angle, forming these ever so slightly angled bedding planes. And we'll go and have a look at this when we're back at school. Now, about 200 million years ago, the climate changed again. Scotland's position in the world changed, and you had shallow seas, which again helped that process of compaction and sedimentation. And if you get compaction and sedimentation to a great degree, particularly compaction, if you get heating and pressure applied, a lot of heat and a lot of pressure, you get the third type of rock, and that's metamorphic. Something like slate. I'm going to pass back to Mr. Cook and he's going to explain that. So, Mr. Cook, catch.
Thanks, Mr. Monteith. And as you just heard, sedimentary rocks are formed in the oceans and where there's lots and lots of pressure involved forming the